Hello everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel Premiere Next. In this video you are going to get all the information related to the latest trailer updates of the series called Turning Point. The Bomb and the Cold War director Brian Knappenberger makes the case in a brand new documentary series that the Cold War, which is widely acknowledged to have ended with the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s, is still going on today. It's difficult to dispute his statement in light of the current condition of affairs. However, Knappenberger provides evidence to support his claim by demonstrating how the Cold War and the development of nuclear weapons are related. Review updates of Turning Point, The Bomb and the Cold War. Brian Knappenberger's 9-part documentary series, Turning Point, The Bomb and the Cold War, explores the Cold War from the perspective of how the development of nuclear weapons both sparked and shaped it throughout time. Before returning to the beginning, however, Knappenberger spends a few minutes explaining how, despite the fact that the Cold War as we know it ended in the early 1990s with the collapse of the Soviet Union, Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine highlights the fact that the Cold War, in a more colloquial sense, never came to an end. Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is among those interviewed for this. He will also be included in next episodes. Subsequently, the story jumps back to 1938, the year that two physicists and a chemist split an atom for themselves. Adolf Hitler was eager to employ the idea that it could be used as a weapon against his adversaries in Europe as a result of the chain reaction that followed. As events in Europe worsened and Japan joined forces with Germany and Italy's Axis powers, President Franklin D. Roosevelt of the United States remained neutral. However, FDR realized that it was critical to outpace the Germans in developing a nuclear weapon following the attack on Pearl Harbor and the U.S. entry into World War II. The first section describes in detail the circumstances that led to the United States developing the bomb through the Manhattan Project and using it to destroy over 200,000 largely civilian buildings in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August of 1945. We are given a comprehensive overview of the Manhattan Project through expert interviews and archival footage. Harry Truman had to be brought up to speed on it when he became president following FDR's death, and there is ongoing disagreement over whether the atomic bombs dropped on Japan, even though the Japanese were in a vulnerable position, contributed to the Pacific War ending sooner. Which TV shows will it make you think of? Turning Point, The Bomb and the Cold War and Turning Point, 9/11 and the War on Terror both benefited from Knappenberger's meticulous production approach. Outtake of Turning Point, The Bomb and the Cold War. In contrast to his analysis of 9/11 and the War on Terror, Knappenberger has done a commendable job of placing the origins of the nuclear arms race in context. Despite being nearly 80 minutes long, the first episode of this docuseries is incredibly engaging as it delves deeper than simply repeating the history you may have heard in school or from watching the innumerable World War II documentaries on the History Channel. It explains the reasons behind the U.S. government's decision to create and use weapons in the first place, as well as the bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The purpose of this first episode, however, is also to demonstrate that there truly appear to be a lack of consideration on the part of the military, Truman and his war cabinet, about just what they will unleash with the use of these weapons, regardless of whether the U.S. government's motivations were geared towards victory or something less pure than that, like keeping the Russians from getting involved and trying to claim pieces of Japan like they did with Eastern Europe. Knappenberger talks about the Manhattan Project in some detail and shows footage of J. Robert Oppenheimer quoting the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds," but his main focus is on how American propaganda during the war made the Japanese appear less than human, leading both Truman and American citizens to feel comfortable destroying a city and killing hundreds of thousands of people. He illustrates how terrible things were by speaking with bombing survivors. We were astounded not only by the survivors' vivid and detailed memories of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, who were all children at the time, but also by their ability to survive for nearly 80 years after being exposed to such a high level of radiation. If you are watching this video on YouTube, please click on the like button and subscribe to the channel for the latest updates related to upcoming movies and series.